Hey guys and welcome back. I am Zmore the Dad in DPS and we are back with another Fallout 76 video today. Now before we get into that, don't forget to leave a like, a comment and subscribe as usual. Helps out the channel infinitely and keeps me going pretty much. Now in a recent video's comment section I had a viewer by the name of Disberry ask, can you please make a video on your gun build? Which I graciously replied, I can do, but it's nothing special, I assure you. And that still remains true. Well, this is that video. So a brief overview of what my build aims to do is simple. As much AoE damage as possible whilst taking as little damage as possible. The usual method for this is the Tesla rifle. Now if you're unfamiliar with the weapon, it's an energy gun that fires an arc of electricity that jumps from one target, or surface, to the next within range. As a result, you can basically shoot around corners and up onto floors above you without being able to see your target, which can be useful against incredibly powerful enemies, since you can sit behind cover while still able to hit them as long as they're within the range of your attack. Anywho, as you can imagine, this increases your survivability substantially. Now, the build itself is basically utilising the Bloodied meta build, but I do have a bunch of different Tesla rifles that I switch between as my weapons slowly degrade, including a 2-shot rifle and a vampire one, but it really depends on the situation. As for armour, well, I'm still working on that setup. The ideal combination would obviously be unyielding and damage reduction whilst standing still. I believe that's called Sentinels. Now, failing that, weight reduction is always nice. The third effect doesn't particularly matter, and if I was going to go for something, it would likely be the bonus AP refresh or strength, or endurance even. Now the legendary perks I'm using mainly boost my special stats or just quality of life improvements like, more ammo when you craft it, but the two that improve my damage are Taking One for the Team and Far-Flung Fireworks. Now as for my perks, you're going to see what I'm running in total on screen, but I'm only going to go into the perks that I consider to be vital for my build. The rest are, once again for quality of life improvement. So here I'm going to divide the perks into two categories, defense and offense. For defense, we have first up Barbarian, which provides damage resistance per each point of strength all the way up to 80. Blocker reduces all incoming melee damage by a whopping 45%, which you can imagine against ghouls is vital. Ironclad increases my damage and energy resistance by 50 when I'm not wearing power armor. Fireproof reduces explosion fire damage by 45%, which can help out in a multitude of situations. Evasive increases both my damage and energy resistance per each point of agility with a maximum of 45, and once again it's when you're not in power armor. Dodgy avoids 30% of incoming damage, but it uses up action points each time it activates, so if you're not killing fast enough, the perk pretty much becomes inert and can leave you vulnerable. Ricochet has an 18% chance to reflect back some of the incoming damage from guns, and since most of our enemies use guns, that is a very valuable perk. And finally for the defensive perks, Serendipity. This gives you a 45% chance to avoid all damage when you're at 30% or below health, which turns out to be one of the more valuable of these perks. Now, with all these perks in place, you can literally tank hits like a god, but if you're unlucky, you can instantly drop like a sack of potatoes. Defensively, the build does not perform well against things like freezing robots and daily ops, and if you're not paying attention to your rads/health, ghouls can easily overwhelm you in numbers due to the radiation damage their attacks leave, though this applies to anything that really does radiation damage, so just be careful. Now we move on to the offensive perks, and again I will only really go to the ones that I deem vital. Now for extra damage, any of the perks dubbed Commando are great for my build. I mainly use automatic Tesla rifles, and as a result these perks boost automatic rifle damage by a roughly 10 to 20% depending on how high the level the perk is. Next up, Tenderizer increases your damage on a target you've attacked by 10% for 10 seconds, and since the Tesla rifle is basically like a constant stream of ticking damage, that is incredibly helpful, especially against large groups. Now, Nerd Rage is technically a defensive as well as an offensive perk, giving both damage and reducing incoming damage, but I felt it was more the offensive side that I wanted to mention it. And finally for these perks, Adrenaline. This boosts your damage by killing enemies. The more you kill, the higher it gets, with a maximum bonus of around 60%, which again, if you're zapping large groups, can rack up quickly, and during events it can enable you to deal massive damage. Now you can see all of my mutations currently on screen. They're all valuable and all fantastic, but in this build only one technically matters, and that is Adrenal Reaction. What this does is it increases the damage I do the lower the HP I am. Since it's a bloody build, my HP is relatively high, therefore it optimises my damage. Now since this main build's primary function is, well, farming events and dealing with large groups of enemies, it doesn't do as well against single targets, but if I do need to take on a big single target, I do have the option to switch to bigger, more powerful weapons such as the Gatling Plasma that I use. And due to my high strength, I can always put on perks to help increase the damage to heavy weapons even further, and I can also wield melee weapons quite competently as well. So there is a bit of flexibility with the build in the long term. One thing I would also add is that this build isn't quite complete. As you can imagine, I'm still farming legendary coins, and it takes a while to get to that point where you have all your legendary perks that you want to use maxed out. On top of that, there is, in the beginning, no chance of swapping between the perks. However, once I'm, leveled up and jacked to hell, I'll be able to swap between certain perks and put in different ones later on. So don't take this as the be all and end all of this build. It is in progress, but it worked quite well for me. So that's today's video, guys. Now if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content from me in the future, and if you have any suggestions for the build, don't forget to leave a comment down below with your suggestion. It would be appreciated, and yeah, I like sharing ideas and testing stuff out. But that's today's video, guys, so we will catch you next time in the Wasteland.